All righty. Well, I am Nancy Coffey. I help to lead the Chairman's Circle, and I'm really thrilled to be with all of you today. The Chamber is dedicated to bringing you resources, insights, guidance that are helpful to you as you grow your business. When we were envisioning what kind of tools and information you all might be needing now, we thought that really culture, this notion of building a vibe and an environment for your colleagues, no matter the size of your business, no matter the sector, it's really the key, and maybe now more than ever is the key. So we have pulled together an all-star panel of Chairman's Circle investors. The Chairman's Circle is 120 of our city's top business leaders. These are the highest level investors in our chamber. We're very grateful to them for giving us the fuel to do the work we do. I'm going to turn it over to Chairman's Circle member, Austin Baker. Austin is president and chairman of the board of HRO Partners. He just infuses creativity and innovation in everything he does, and wears a bazillion community leadership hats in addition to his own thriving business. So we're fortunate to have Austin leading today's charge. I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm excited to help lead this event and moderate an outstanding panel of professionals that I've gotten to know well over the years, and who I admire and respect greatly. When it comes to culture in organizations, there's a lot of perspectives, on that, and a lot of ways that people define it. Last Thursday, when we had an opportunity to have a great conversation with my dear friend John Daniel, who's been an HR leader at First Horizon for many years. We talked about Shine's model of culture, and we talked about some of the cultural artifacts and elements. So I'll kind of give you a quick overview of a few some thoughts about culture, before we kind of dive into the questions with the panel. The culture is such an interesting thing. It's like you can put your hands on it, but you can't put your hands on it. And so as I was thinking about culture in my remarks, it made me think of a riddle, because there's a lot of paradoxes of culture. And so when it comes to culture, you can feel me, but you can't touch me. I'm a multiplier, a divider, an adder, subtractor, and I equal your whole. Even though I represent the decision before the decision, every future decision defines me. You can't see all of me, but I represent all of you. And so when it comes to corporate culture, the paradox of the things there is you have kind of things that you can see, things that you can feel in a corporate culture or a culture of an organization. And you have other things that are behind the scenes, they're uncovered, they're there, they're important to the organization, and they represent most of it, really and truly. And if you think about, the world we're in today, especially, with a social distancing, I don't really like the term social distancing. I like the term physical distancing, because we're social creatures by all means, and other people have said that. It's not my own quote there, but I've heard it from several places. I think that that's how we have to think about our corporate culture now. We have to think about how are we connecting in a different way? How are we maintaining what's important to us? How are we celebrating? And so when it comes to culture, whether you've decided to define it or not, you definitely have it. And the thing is if you want to really manage and you want to grow your culture in the way that you want, it's not really real until it's tested as well. And so are you willing to hire and fire based on your culture? Are you willing to make the next decision about your investments, about where you're putting your investment dollars in your organization, based on, your culture and your beliefs? And the thing is that there's so many elements, when it comes to culture. We could spend all day talking about that. I'm anxious to jump in, to the conversation, but I will share this one thing with you just to kind of give you some context. The iceberg principle of culture is something I think that all of us need to look at. Is a great way to kind of encapsulate it. You've got things that we're aware of, or behavior, products and practices. And then you have things that you're not aware of, perhaps, but they're there. They represent different beliefs and different assumptions that are in your organization from every person that's coming and walking in the door. They represent your values, which I call the decision before the decision. And so those are the things to kind of think about when you think about culture. So with that, I wanted to jump in and introduce our great fellow panelists. so that you can get an idea of who are some of our experts, our CEOs, about their perspectives on culture. And so as I introduce each of them, I've asked each of them to prepare a few of their thoughts around culture and their approach to culture, and to share a few words, and then I'll introduce the next person. And so first I want to introduce, if you all, the panelists, want to turn on their mics and their video, please go ahead and do that. But I first would love to introduce Frank Quinn. Frank Quinn is I've gotten to know well through the chairman's circle now. He's a great community leader, an outstanding contributor, but right now he's the managing director of CBRE's Memphis office. And he's got more than 30 years of real estate work that his experience is really, really deep. The work has come from primarily in commercial real estate, but his passion is really for connecting the right people and the right skills on every single opportunity. And I see that in his work and his community work as well, as he's definitely a connector, no doubt about it. And so with his experience, they have site acquisition, tenant representation, a variety of things they do at CBRE. I know he'll get a chance to tell you more about that, but please give a warm welcome for my dear friend, Frank Quinn. Frank, tell us a little bit about your approach to culture and what your thoughts are.
Thank you, Austin. This is a huge subject to me personally. In fact, before I was invited to speak, I was working on a culture document to circulate within my own office. So it came in the same 2-day period. So we somewhat divide culture. We have a baseline corporate culture, and then they allow the city leaders and market leaders to form our own cultures locally, which has been a great attribute, I think. So on a national basis, CB launched 2 major initiatives in the last several years. One was the scripting and adoption of our RISE values. Now, RISE stands for respect, integrity, service, and excellence. So anyone working at CB commits to these values. And these values not only define how we treat our customers, but it's also exactly how we treat ourselves. And you are held accountable on these. CB also, over the last years, realized the movement towards a flexible work environment. So we have been remodeling and constructing offices all across the US in our 360 concept. Memphis has been in one for almost 2 years. This eliminates all private offices. We all move to an open floor plan, surrounded by technology, non-address work surface. So you can sit anywhere you want, any day you want. You can come and go as you want. But, was it a change? Absolutely, it was a change. What did we get out of it? We saw great increases in communication and collaboration, which ended up with a great degree of productivity increase. So it's been a great change. Now, locally, I came to back to CB 3 years ago, and I can distinctly remember the first day I walked in and sat down is I was determined that every person in the CBR seat had a great experience with our office. So I formed my culture totally around inclusion. My management group and myself, we work extremely hard making sure every employee has access to our information, to our communications, to our events, either in the office or outside the office. And a huge thing is I personally share the financial performance of our office with the entire group quarterly. It's an open door policy. It's an open book policy. And we've had a tremendous positive response to our efforts.
Thank you, Frank. That's a great overview. I love your RISE acronym that y'all use nationally as well. Well, next up, I'm going to introduce our next panelist, Bill Seeley. Bill is the president of Varsity Spirit, a leading global source for all things spirit. And I know that many people in Memphis certainly know Varsity, but really learn about their national scope and their national breadth. He oversees outfitting more than 750,000 athletes annually. over 5,000 camps in 50 states, 600 plus competitions across the U.S., over 20 premier championships events as well. So Bill is a graduate of George Mason University, where he was a former cheerleader there as well. So he came up through that, working through the organization and participating in those activities himself. And so I think that also I found interesting in your bio that you sent over that you're also launching with your son a new brewery in town as well, Grind City Brewing. So congratulations on that as well. So Bill, would you mind telling us a little bit about culture and your approach to culture as a leader?
Sure thing. Thanks, Austin. And thank you, Nancy and Amy and Tanya, for putting this on. I think this is, such a critical topic for companies. And really, I think culture is the foundation that it's all built upon. And for us, the culture, it starts with your why. I mean, one of my favorite quotes is a Nietzsche quote, he who has a why to live can endure anyhow. And your mission as a company, I think, really needs to, no matter what you do, I mean, we're in the business of young people, and our mission is elevating the student experience. The mission has to really grab the hearts of everyone as part of your organization. They have to understand why they're coming to work in the morning. And I think the more aspirational you can create your mission around, then I think that inspires people to kind of go above and beyond. And work becomes more than work, and it really does become part of something you commit your life to and you give your time to. And that's really what we're asked our employees to. We're asking them to give their lives to helping shape the lives of young people. And so, the mission is how it starts. But as I always say to our employees, words and pictures have to match. And Austin, that it goes to your point that you brought up at the beginning. I mean, you don't know what school spirit is until you go to a school that has great school spirit and you see it. It's part of that culture. They believe in the school. They believe in the mission. They want to be there. They want to be connected. And you can see it in everything that they do. They're wearing their school colors. They're waving the flags. They want to do the pep rallies. They're at the games. You have that kind of engagement going on inside the classrooms. And that's for your company as well. You have to be able, when I get up and I lead with our mission of elevating the student experience, if they don't see me living that out in my life, it's worthless. And so you have to, live that mission that your company is trying to create. And people have to be able to see it. And then you have to create opportunities around those moments. And it's like I always say about athlete safety. It's not a box you check. It's something that we have to get better at all the time. Same thing with culture. Culture is not something that you just check and go, okay, great, I've got a great culture. You have to continuously work at it every single day, going in, looking for those opportunities, lifting up people who are demonstrating what your culture should look like, holding that out as this is the gold standard. This is what I want you to all look like. And this is how I want us to perform as an organization. And it's something that you just have to always get up and be aware of as a leader of your company. It starts with you and making sure you have that why, and you always lead with it, and then get into the details of the business and make sure that all of your objectives, everything that you do is aimed at that why, aimed at that mission, and it grabs your employee's heart. It becomes part of your DNA, and then that DNA is on display to the general community.
That's a great perspective, Bill. I love that Nietzsche quote. If you know the why, you can live anyhow. That's a wonderful encapsulation for our conversation today. Thank you for sharing that. I love hearing your approach and your authenticity in that as well. Next up, I'm going to introduce a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Ron Redwing. Ron and I have gotten a chance to work on a variety of community things over the years, political events and things like that, supporting some outstanding leaders that sacrifice and lead in our community in so many ways. And he's a consummate professional. He always follows through on things that he wants to do. And I know whenever I call him, he answers, and I feel honored by that. But he's the CEO of the Redwing Group, founded in 1996. And the Redwing Group is a public strategies firm. And they specialize in strategic marketing and government relations, lobbying, business development. and they do outstanding work in our community. And so I appreciate the give back that you give back, Ron. And I'm looking forward to our conversation on culture. Ron's, like many of these bios, many of these CEOs are very well accomplished. We'll make sure you get them out to you so you get their full scale of everything they do. But Ron, please tell us a little bit about your approach to culture.
Thank you so much, Austin. And let me also thank the Chamber and certainly the Chairman Circle for putting on this event and certainly inviting us to be a part of it. I think it's great to have this conversation around an issue that's so important to us. And as a small business, when I started my company many, many moons ago, as a first time business owner and certainly the first in my family to own a business, I really didn't have a lot to start with to go on. So much of what I understood about culture and the workplace, I'd learned from either previous employees or employers and from just my own personal experiences in the workplace. And I model a lot of what made sense to me at that time, much of what I'd learned from my experience at Methodist. And that started with the importance of the customer and recognizing what drove our industry. So when I started my business, I really wanted to make my business customer-based, customer-focused, and it became very important to me as I began to hire individuals for them to recognize our mission and our goals, particularly as it related to leadership and customer service. And I'd always say, you know, we need to lead with enthusiasm. And as a leader of my organization, I had to exemplify that through my actions and through my works. When I think of culture, I think of the embodiment of an organization. And when I think of our organization, I knew that much of what people would think about the company would be, in some instances, because I started off so small, would be what people thought about me. So things that were important to me was operating with integrity. And as we built the firm and brought individuals in, we made sure that they were aware of what was important to this organization. I will say this, because part of our structure and part of services we provided externally involved a lot of event planning and promoting of events for others, for clients. So often what people knew about the Redwing Group would be what they saw through our events. And there were some instances where people would be attracted to wanting to work with us simply because we threw great events. Until they came in and recognized, oh, whoa, this is real work, this is really different, and this is important work. As we work with governors and presidents, CEOs, and large corporations, again, it was very critical to me to ensure that our team led with enthusiasm, that they understood our purpose, and that they recognized how we presented ourselves as individuals reflected on our company as a whole. So that's some of my initial thoughts, and I look forward to further engaging in the conversation.
Great perspectives, Ron. I love your approach and focus on customers, and certainly the word integrity is something I know you live by personally as well. So thank you for that perspective. Next up, I'm going to be introducing Jerry Martin. If you want to go ahead and turn your camera on, Jerry. Jerry is the president and CEO of the YMCA. He's joining us from his conference room today. And so in January 2017 is when he was named to that post. But he has many, many years of experience in the YMCA. I was so impressed, getting a chance to know you through some of your bio, but also the impact of the YMCA. from you starting at the very beginning of your journey as a soccer player from the YMCA in Jacksonville, and then working your way through, participating in the programs as a youth person, and then much like Bill, and then moving up into the organization is a testament to someone that probably really knows the organization well. But I mean, just an impact, in the Memphis area, more than 11 YMCA branch locations, over 150 program sites, 25 plus summer camps, 80,000 plus participants, 30,000 youth a year, and you have over $2.5 million to support the program services, all the people community that you provide. So just very impressive, your work personally and YMCA's mission and work here. Y'all are so important to our community. Tell us your approach and what your thoughts are around culture, Jerry, and so that we can get to know you a little bit better.
Great, thanks, Austin. Appreciate it. Great to be with y'all today. Thanks, Amy and Nancy, for this opportunity. Really honored to be a part of this. And one thing I'll say, Austin, those are, I'm sure like many of us, those are pre-COVID numbers as far as our participation. We're hoping they get back to where they were prior to that. So I would put the culture and where we're trying to get into the why in three terms, and that's humble, hungry, and smart. And for those of you that are familiar with that term, that's from Patrick Lencioni's book, it's 2016, called The Ideal Team Player. And it was something that our leadership group did as a kind of a book study, and something that we really adopted as a culture. And so it kind of flipped the script for us in terms of when we looked to take folks on prospective Y staff folks in our full-time capacities. We used to do ratings as people would come in, and we would have boards meet with them and the peer group and the staff that they would supervise, and they would rate them on, 1 to 10 on different aspects. And then we kind of changed that to just having them measure humble, hungry, and smart. And that's really gotten us to a place where we're literally, when we look at those three attributes, I think humble and hungry come pretty easily to people. They know what humility is, and certainly hungry people that desire to do the work. The smart piece is, I think, is where a lot of folks think that, okay, well, gosh, he's a smart guy, went to school, all that. And the smart piece for us has to do more with, common sense, really ask good questions, good listener, those kinds of things, really the emotional part of that. And so I would say, as far as the culture and where we're trying to get to pre-pandemic and hopefully post-pandemic, currently with our change in business model that we'll talk a little bit about in some of the questions, is humble, hungry, and smart. So thanks, Austin.
Thank you, Jerry. I love the hungry, humble, smart. I'm gonna have to maybe borrow that sometime. I'll make sure and give you credit. I'm a big Lencioni fan as well. I love all of his books. The most recent one I read, I think, was the Obsessions of a CEO, something like that, and it talked about cascading communications and a variety of things. So thank you for all of your perspectives. I'm going to dive in and ask the panel a few questions of my own, and then I'm really anxious to hear from the other people that are on our webinar today. I know we've got a lot of people on that are looking forward to hearing, so I'm going to work to try to get as many of those questions I can in. And so as you're thinking about things and thinking about their comments, if you want to drop those questions to us as a panelist, I'll look to field them that way as well. So if you can do that. And so, I think that, we have a variety of things going on that are timely in our society that are changing everything. Change is definitely the new normal. I think that whenever people ask me about change management, I say, well, it's, everybody's approach to change is good. Change is good, but you go first, right? That's how people feel about things. And so, looking at, I'm really, really wondering, how has COVID-19 and the remote work wave, changed your culture? And what new strategies are you pioneering to help preserve the culture that you have and really, continue to grow as an organization to really adapt into the new normal? I'm just kind of curious for like a current kind of state of things. How are you managing that as a CEO? Whoever would like to jump in first, you're welcome to jump in.
I'll jump.
Oh, go ahead, Ron.
Okay, sure. The COVID-19 outbreak has really shifted the way we do business significantly. The nature of our business entails many client interactions, such as business development, public relations, outings, community engagements, and so on. Since COVID, my day-to-day pre-pandemic has consisted of repeat in-person meetings, conferences, and consulting over dinner. Now, of course, those things are very difficult to do and not recommended in many instances. So we've had to adapt to the new norm by meeting with clients over a virtual scale via Zoom and using third parties to close out contracts due to confidentiality and to ensure a secure database. So it's really impacted the way we even do some of the things that were really basic pre-pandemic. And it's changed our outlook on how we interact with our clients, how we even engage with the community. Most of our interactions and communications are like we are now through Zoom or some other platform, just to get through the regular day. So it's really had a tremendous impact on how we operate as a business.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate that perspective. Who else would like to chime in, Bill?
I'll jump in. I think the pandemic has really kind of affected us a couple ways. Some, it's really hurt the culture in terms of, we're very connected culture. We're in the business of live events. Not a great time to be in the live event business. So we're around our customers frequently. So from that perspective, I think there was a lot of kind of harm to the culture, or could have been a lot of harm to the culture, but I think it also amplified the strength and the depth of our culture in terms of seeing our employees rise to the challenge. So I'll give you an example. Innovation is one of our core values. We'll figure out a way to kind of get things done. And anybody that knows cheerleaders, we're getting beat 55-0. We're still cheering the guys on, right? We still think we have a chance. And so I think when the pandemic hit in mid-March, obviously schools were all closed down. We're in the business of schools, and we were in the middle of tryout season where cheerleading squads and dance teams and bands are being put together for the upcoming season. And so as it hit in mid-March, by April 1st, our team had digital alternatives where there was no contact virtual tryouts to help coaches select their teams for 2020, 2021. And so I've seen our employees kind of rise to the challenge and overcome some what might seem to most as insurmountable challenges with great solutions. And then, as you go through this over an extended period of time, to really make sure that you're keeping your culture front and center. To my earlier comments, this is something that you have to get up every day and make sure you're keeping an eye out for that. And as you're going through a storm, I got a great email from a customer. We selected our All-Americans this year virtually. And so we have a group of folks who are actually, watching videos every day of young people sending in their skills to be qualified for All-American program. And got this really sweet email from a mom just talking about how her daughter's dreams have come true. Again, elevating the student experience and in this pandemic. And so she just raved about our staff and the employees. And so I just sent out an email to everyone that was involved in this process saying, hey, I want you guys to pause for a second. I know everybody's had their head down and has been going through the storms. But one of my favorite things about storms is when you see those beams of light coming down through the clouds, when things are still, the sun is still there. Keep going, the sun is still there. And so I think showing them that and making sure that they knew it didn't go unnoticed is, again, just reinforces the culture. And so that's the amplification part of that. I mean, I've seen our culture really rise to the challenge, and it's been encouraging. It's just, making sure you're mindful of that exists when you're going through the challenging times.
It's great. I think that, it's clear that you're a cheerleader from the top of the organization, and maintaining that, to make sure that people are looking at the positive side of things. It's pretty easy to look at the half full these days for sure, especially if you turn on the news. So, Frank, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, when COVID hit, fortunately, we were, again, as I mentioned, we were in our 360 office concept. So we were already had a number of employees working several days from home as a natural progression of the flexible workspace. So we were already using Zoom. We've been using Zoom corporately for months. All of our reviews, instead of going to Atlanta, are done by Zoom here in Memphis. All our conference calls were Zoom. So we had that on computers and our phones. Also, CB, in the past months, we had decentralized a lot of our support. So we were getting virtual support, media out of Washington, D.C., research out of the Carolinas, marketing out of Atlanta. But, through the network, these are people who are on our team and we deal with on a daily basis. So when the COVID hit, it didn't exactly just topple our entire process. We were kind of underway. It accelerated leaving the office, but we had systems in place. Now, doesn't mean people didn't feel bad about it, and there were a lot of questions being asked. So one thing CB did was, because we had so many clients coming to us and our people were coming to us, is it produced an incredible amount of information, whether what we were seeing in other offices in Europe and Asia, here in America, where we were predicting financial markets, anywhere we had to do, we were producing reports, studies, responses. And that was shared with our clients, but it was also shared with our people. So they were invited to participate in calls and view reports and stay engaged. We also, the company was proactive in developing tools to help during this time. So for instance, Talent Coach, brand new tool. It's a self-improvement development training tool, and everybody with extra time on their hands, we've really been promoting further development and train yourself and learn more aspects of the office and whatever. It's been a great deal. CBR Wellness Series, it specifically addresses your time at home. Everybody goes a little nuts at home at some point in time, and this thing is directly to help you have a better experience while you're waiting this thing out. We have a CBR Connect mobile app where any of our people can connect to anybody else. It organizes all the reports. It organizes a lot of anything that CB's reporting on that day or previously. So it keeps everybody really organized and well connected. And that's where our effort has been. Locally, we've put a lot of effort. We have been an awesome monthly newsletter, very different than what we had before the COVID. It's something that they put a lot of time into. We really focus on Zoom birthdays. We had Zoom happy hours. Those got a little out of hand, so we hadn't had one in a while. But, we just touching base with everybody. And I tell you, what used to be on recognition, an email saying congratulations to Austin Baker for a job well done, we now go to our media contact in DC and do a really elevated piece and show our appreciation and really make those people feel special at this point in time when we can't get together. So it's attention to details, it's a touch points, and it's not leaving them out there on the island. And I think it's worked well so far. But we are ready to get back to the office, and all of this effort hadn't replaced being together. So
no doubt.
Trying to get back.
No, I think great takeaways on that for sure. You've got to be able to cheer louder these days, to make sure that people are hearing you and do it differently. Right. And certainly a great examples as well. So thank you, Frank. What about you, Jerry? What are your thoughts about, at the Y? How are you all dealing with COVID-19 and the remote work wave? I know certainly has changed many things for you as well. What are you doing to preserve culture and maintain it?
Thanks, Austin. So, of course, in March, like many of us, when we closed our building, we went from 1,400 employees down to about 100. The others, of course, were furloughed. And as our facilities were closed and Shelby County schools had some positive COVID tests, we very quickly got into the food business, serving meals, serving lunches. And so some of our senior staff went from one day supervising staff at a Y to making and handing out sandwiches. And so the positive of that is we went down to a core staff that I think those folks would tell you that working in the freezer at the food bank was a time that people really came together, that it was for a common purpose. Not that we were always not about a common purpose, but as you mentioned earlier, with 11 locations and 150 program sites, frankly, we've got staff, spread all the way from Oxford to Millington. They just don't come together all that much because they're in their local Y and their local community. And this was an opportunity for everybody to come together for one common purpose, which the majority of our work in March and April was around food service and distributing 100,000 meals weekly to Shelby County schools. And so it was really, really great work. And we have now, of course, we reopened our Ys, but we were also in the virtual learning business now, assisting, again, Shelby County schools, still doing the meal part of it. But I think from the culture piece and folks, again, I've heard from several of our folks, our director of competitive swimming, who, of course, runs the swim teams, would say, I would have never had an opportunity had it not been for this to experience and to hear all of the stories from the people that are doing great work in communities all across the Mid-South. So while there have been certainly challenges, we're encouraged that our workforce is back up now to about 1,200. As of course we reopen facilities, we have literally hundreds of staff that are supervising 70 virtual learning centers. We're opening more daily. We're getting back to more of a sense of normal, certainly, and are hoping that membership will come back at some point here fairly soon.
Wow, that's a great, you covered a lot of ground there, from having to make very difficult financial decisions to preserve the organization, no doubt, but also working to kind of maintain that core team, bringing together, and then coming back from that and coming in. Y'all's impact in the community is so incredible. I know Ron had a chance to work with y'all on some of the things with SCS and doing some of those things, contributing as partnering as well. So kudos on your response. I think that employees will always remember this time in their lives. They're always going to remember what this looks like and what the company culture felt like to them and how they felt about it at work. And so paying attention to that why is so important. But also, really, there's a lot of other things going on, beyond COVID right now. I think that we cannot ignore, the things that are going on right now. And I think that it's time for elevated conversations in many organizations around, different issues that have been under the surface or not really brought to the same level of elevation that they needed to. And so I'm really curious around, we have a lot of things going on in our society right now that people feel that there's a cultural divide in some ways. Other people are feeling things coming together. But in terms of social justice, in terms of, what are your thoughts as a leader around your approach to really making sure that you're being inclusive and really more purposefully inclusive more than ever? I'm curious kind of how you're working from a cultural standpoint to bring your people together right now. Bill?
Yeah, I can share, again, it's, challenging times, right? So typically for us on a normal summer, we would just be coming off training about 350,000 kids at our summer camps, and we'd be gearing into the competition season where the staff and everybody's together in a room in the same place or out on a field, et cetera. And so for this, it's been challenging, but we've done several things. I think one of the things that we've done, myself and other leaders of Varsity, is we all block time to call our employees and just check on them and make sure that they're doing okay, see how they are from a health standpoint, what they're doing to stay active and busy and kind of encourage them to live kind of a healthy lifestyle while they're going through these challenging times, because we know it can take a toll on you mentally. We have, virtual happy hours. So when we celebrate something, we have something that's successful, we'll have a virtual happy hour and announce what that is and share it with the broader group. We try to magnify those more than ever before. I think we were pretty good at it before. I think this has really kind of forced us to do that better. And so we have, I do a town hall, virtual town hall to our employees. It started out weekly when this began. I wanted to make sure they understood kind of how we were dealing with the challenges. We were very transparent, so they understand the hill that we're trying to climb. And I think one of the things I've seen from that is our employees kind of respond and rise to the challenge. They want to be a part of the solution and getting the business back to where it needs to be. And so I'm very transparent. I share with them kind of the financial results. Now it's broken down to a monthly basis, and I have a guest speaker now. So this past week I had our two leaders of our school business and our club business get on and talk about that. I had our founder pop in at the end of the meeting to ensure that our folks saw our fearless leader was still around and engaged. And next month I have a speaker coming on that's not just motivational but also is a culture expert, and she's doing Colleen Stanley is doing a portion in the next town hall. And then I block time to call our customers too, and so I'll block off an hour to 2 hours a day, and I'll just call the customers, not to sell them anything, just to check on them, to see if there's anything that we can do to help them during this time. Just let them know that we're here for them. And then I get on social media. I up at 5 in the morning and I go to bed probably 10, 11 o'clock at night, because I'm on social media when I get home, and I direct message employees telling them, hey, they're doing a great job or whatever. But those are just kind of some of the things that we're trying to do above and beyond to keep everyone connected and keep the culture alive and well.
Some great engagement strategies, especially like the personal reaching out, making sure that people are having those one-to-ones and otherwise as well, to really bring people together. Yeah, I'm curious, Frank or Ron, do you all want to chime in and talk about anything you're doing to continue to drive engagement and inclusion, really, to be really purposeful about that?
We've talked about this a lot in light of recent events, and it's our feeling that change and bridging the gap, that's going to have to start from the very top of an organization. And Bob Selenick, our CEO, came out and with a statement at the start of this and just made a firm stand that CB stands for equality, and there's not to tolerate any type of discriminatory behavior. We have recently financially supported the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, as well as the National Urban League. We elevated a senior VP to a new position, created a new position of Chief Diversity Officer. He reports straight to the 12-member executive committee that runs CBRE. So we made some strategic moves in the first place to better our positions and being better at bridging the gap and making sure we are operating properly. While we locally are guided and reviewed by HR, and our hiring attempts and processes are run by CBRE recruiters regionally, so that we have standards and a lot of things to make sure we include and do the right thing. It's kind of come to light that all of our offices could do a better job locally engaging with groups, schools, universities, colleges, any organization that we could better define or help them understand possibly a career in commercial real estate. And that's on our list. And so we're going to step up locally and try to be more inclusive in the Memphis area. And I look forward to meeting the best and brightest from all across the city.
Yeah, no, I think those are great initiatives, and the fact they've already taken some strong actions really speaks volumes as well. I know I'm always in the right room, when Ron Redwing's there, and he and I enjoy really diverse friendships across across this area as well. And he, you thrive on these areas. What are you seeing and supporting either for your customers or in your own organization to really advance more inclusion and more meetings that look like this, that look diverse?
Yeah, thanks for that, Austin. I think Frank just touched on a very important point, and as I listen to him talk about what CBRE is doing, I think the key thing there was the will. It's not always knowing the right things or having the exact answers when we're talking about inclusion and diversity or even social justice. I believe truly that it's having the will to make the changes, to acknowledge shortcomings, and as we've stated before, to set specific goals to impact whatever gaps exist either in your organization or within the confines of systems you're trying to put in place. I also believe awareness is really important when we talk about inclusion and having an impact, especially for a city like Memphis. I'm so pleased with the work the Chairman Circle's doing, certainly there with the Chamber. When we talk about business development with small and MWBE companies, much of what we're seeing throughout the country, if you think about the basis of it, lots of it will stem from non-inclusion. Rather, if it relates to small businesses who've not been able to get that first contract. And speaking of that, I'm so pleased with the city of Memphis and the new partnership with All World Project Management on the announcement of the contract they're going to have with the city of Memphis. And that goes to will. And I'll commend Mayor Strickland for being part of that and for helping to make that opportunity happen. But we always say you have to start somewhere. And with that opportunity, hopefully it's the floor and not the ceiling. Hopefully we see more business opportunities like that happen, particularly here in Memphis. So again, awareness, taking steps internally to ensure equality is the first step. And the next step is just taking action. And I think companies can do that through developing policies and implementing those through leadership roles that involves equality. And I think seeing individuals promoted in companies at the high levels like AutoZone with the new CFO that they just brought in, those are all things that I think can have a tremendous impact on how we view issues nationally and how we impact them locally on our actions. So I think having the will and by being aware and moving on those actions can make a big difference with any organizations, no matter the size of the organization.
Thank you, Ron. Jerry, do you want to chime in?
The last thing I'll say,
Go ahead.
they can also achieve those goals by hiring HRO. I know you guys know how to make it happen.
Yeah, no, we've been diversifying our supplier base for a long time now, and we enjoy that. And I've taken on, I think now 3 minority businesses to mentor personally to try to help them, learn how to gain business and grow themselves. So it's been a really rewarding experience for me, no doubt. So
Absolutely.
So Jerry, would you like to chime in and talk a little bit about what the Y is doing? And then I want to make sure that we have a chance to answer a couple questions. We've got about 10 minutes left. And I want to
Austin. Yeah, I would. But first, I'd like to give an additional 30 seconds because Mr. Redwing took 30 seconds of mine. So is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I just wanted to say staff diversity in the Ys is a major issue in our senior levels. And I would say, like many nonprofits, the Y is overrepresented at the senior level with Caucasian staff. We've been encouraged at a national level. Our CEO of YUSA, which is our parent organization in Chicago, is Kevin Washington. His CEO is Black and has been CEO for 5 years and has encouraged us at the local levels. We're locally autonomous, so we kind of got our own ship. But Kevin has said, listen, we need to be more representative of the community at the senior levels. And what we see on the levels, on the local levels, is that we are not raising up young people of color in the levels that will eventually get to that point. And so our goal in Memphis is to encourage young people, and especially young people of color. Now, I could go on not just about diversity and the fact that we're having a hard time getting young people to make a career move into the Y. I think they're a lot smarter than I was growing up and didn't know any different than working for a little bit of money 7 days a week, right? Like a lot of us. And they go, I don't want to do this, and maybe jump out. But we're certainly trying to be intentional about when those senior positions come available, that we have leaders of color who can step into those positions. We tend to be an organization, I'm sure like many, that since our culture and working in a nonprofit, that again, because of our work in wellness and fitness, we kind of dabble in a couple of different areas, whether it's, we're many different things as an organization. And so it is a different culture, it is a different environment, and we find that once people are in that and they see what the Y is about, and so we do like to promote from within. That may be locally within Memphis or within other communities, but I know we're making a very intentional of trying to bring young people along so that when we have those senior positions, we're able to promote them within that, and certainly that's being encouraged our national office. And we've had some, I'd say within the last 3 years, we've had some good movement in that direction.
Thank you, Jerry. I think definitely being intentional, making sure that those candidate slates have a diverse group of people applying, and that you're really doing succession in a really much more purposeful way, I think is a great takeaways I got from there. We had a question from the audience. Adrienne Johnson-Williams, a friend of mine, asking about what work you're doing as leaders to learn and understand what's happening in the country right now around race and gender. As one of you said, culture and change begins at the top. And so I'd like to throw that question back over to Bill. I know you wanted to raise your hand, wanted to answer that as well.
Yeah.
So tell us how you're modeling learning around self-awareness.
Yeah, I think this is hugely important. And I think, we talk about Black Lives Matter. And I said earlier, words and pictures have to match. And when something matters to you, you give your life to it. You commit to it. You invest in it. You make sure that people know it's important to you, and it's important to us. I talk about elevating the student experience. That's every student, regardless of race, creed, gender, sexual orientation. We have to be more intentional in that. And again, that comes from the leadership. So, I want to make sure our folks know. I left Varsity in 2004 to start a youth sports organization here in Memphis called Crosscheck. I saw a great disparity and no youth programs in our inner cities, and it bothered me so much. I grew up in the inner city New York. It bothered me so much that I walked away from a successful career to take on this challenge. And now we've got 9 youth sports programs. I've got several world championship rings. The one I wear? This one right here is my Southside Wildcats ring. We won the city championship last year. And I have to tell you, the things that these kids do to have to overcome the obstacles they have in the community, single moms, high crime areas, food problems when schools are out. I mean, the issues and the systemic problems in our inner city communities, if we don't address those in a real way, it's going to continue to be a problem. And we have to make sure that we are investing in these initiatives to make sure everyone understands that this is important. It's not only important to our company, it's important to our community, and it's important to our country. And so I think, as leaders, around Varsity Spirit, I bring in community groups that are doing work in the inner city on a regular basis. I want to make sure that they understand that these groups exist. I challenge our employees to plug in. I challenge our HR team to make sure that we have a balanced slate of candidates when we're looking to hire, and that we have the opportunity to create a more diverse and inclusive environment inside of Varsity. So I think this is, obviously it's the topic of the day, but this is something that's been on my heart for a long time, and our companies. And so it's one of those things, we're never going to be perfect in this area. We have to always push to get better and challenge ourselves, and it starts with me.
Great perspective, Bill. I think that many of the other CEOs would chime in and have some similar sentiments, but I made a promise to end on time and also to leave you wanting more. And so I know I want to keep having the conversation with these great gentlemen and these outstanding professionals, but we do all have our agendas and our times today. I think we probably could continue the conversation on, and I would love to invite you as we'll send out some follow-up materials. I know that the Chamber always does in the recording. If you want to send in some of your ideas around culture to the group or conversations. I think now more than ever, this is the topic. Culture crosses boundaries. Culture matters more than ever. And I think that we have to pay attention to it, and we have to own it from the very top of our organization. Otherwise, it will never be real. And so I think that I've learned a lot today, Nancy, Ron, Jerry, Frank, and Bill. I want to say a very big thank you to you for your time. I know that doesn't come easy to get time on your calendars ever, because you're much like me as well. The amount that y'all all give back to our community, the amount that you all give your companies is very apparent, and we appreciate you very much. And so, speaking of being represented and being inclusive, I was asked to also give a plug about our need around the census. As corporate leaders, whatever we can do around Shelby County right now to get our people to fill that out, we're missing out if we don't. And so if you want to be counted, you've got to stand up and be counted. It doesn't take long, but we would love to get some corporate support to do that so that we can raise our hand at a federal level and be included for the dollars that we deserve and that we need. And so it takes leadership, and it takes leadership to do that. So I was asked to give a plug on some timely matters around that as well. So Nancy, would you like to close us out? Are you muted, Nancy? That's the quote of the year for 2020, actually, is you're muted.
Give this a try.
There we are.
I've had trouble with my computer. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but
Sure.
Anyway, thank you for being here. I'm very grateful to you all, Chairman Circle leaders, for being willing to share your time and insights. And we've had incredible feedback. My phone, the Q&A, the chat is just blowing up with gratitude from everyone. So this is the second in a 4-part series. I hope you'll join us next week. We'll have Chairman Circle leader David Dart from ServiceMaster. So he's obviously driving culture amidst a lot of change in his own environment and circumstance. So join us then, and in the meantime, have a great week. Be well. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.